Hey, this is Anna Runyon from ClassyCareerGirl.com, and today in my networking challenge, I'm speaking with Jessica Miller. Jessica is the co-author of A Woman's Guide to Successful Negotiating, which I have right here, and I'm really excited we're going to give away some of these books on my blog today. So thanks so much, Jessica, for being here.
Oh, thanks for having me.
You bet. So what are some common negotiating mistakes that women make, and how can we avoid them?
Well, I think I'm going to start by going through the basic three keys that will help in any negotiation
Okay.
that you do, and then I'll get into the mistakes to try and avoid and how you can get around them. But the real keys to any negotiation in any situation is really to prepare yourself, do the research, know what the situation is, know what you want to get out of whatever it is you're going after, and know what the value is of it. And then that'll give you confidence, which is the second key. And that confidence will help you go after whatever it is you want. Because you have to be able to convince yourself you deserve it before you can convince someone else to give it to you. And then finally, be willing to walk away, because there's always another deal. There's always another opportunity. And if you walk away right, you're not really walking away. You're just putting yourself in a better position to negotiate and get what you want ultimately. So with that, the mistakes that women make, I'd say the biggest one is that they don't ask for what they want. It's so easy, and you can do it nice and politely. Just throw out the question, whether you're shopping and you're asking for a discount, or whether you're in a situation where someone's offering something, but maybe it's not really what you want. Just ask. If you're eating, if whatever the situation is, if there's something you want, throw it out there politely, be nice about it, and just see the reaction you get and go from there. That's the number one. Women are afraid to ask, and it will get you so far without having to do anything really. And you should be very comfortable doing it. A couple times practicing, you'll be amazed at what you get just for asking for it. The second mistake is, a lot of times, especially in professional negotiation situations, women will take a style that isn't really theirs because they've seen it work for other people. You have to be yourself. You have to find your own negotiating style when you're negotiating. And if being aggressive is actually your preferred style and it works for you, go for it. But for most women, I would say, figure out what that style is. If it's more relationship-based, if it's more what's the common ground here, and develop that, as opposed to just being very competitive with what you're going after. And lastly, women tend to take negotiations personally, or situations personally, even when it's not personal, and when it's really just about something that has nothing to do with them. And if you get emotional and if you take it personal, you won't be able to focus on what you really want to get out of the situation. It'll cloud your judgment and you'll react poorly. So it's not personal, don't take it personal. And even if it is in your head, don't let it become personal when you're in that situation.
I suppose there's nothing wrong with taking a break too, and asking for a break, maybe a couple minutes or something. And
absolutely, if you're getting emotional in any way, you definitely want to get yourself out of that situation, collect your thoughts, get your head in the right place, and go to the bathroom, whatever you have to do to get out of the situation without letting the other side see you get emotional.
Okay. So what are some common differences you see when negotiating with men or women?
I think every situation is going to be different. And a lot of times we like to generalize it and say men versus women. I like to think of it more as competitive style of negotiation, which tends to be more of a man's way of negotiating and seeing things as a game and getting as much as they can, versus women who really think more in the relationship terms and would love a win-win situation. It doesn't always fall in those categories, but I would say if you're dealing with a man, the best way to approach it, from what I've found and from what a lot of the women we've interviewed have said, is you need to really do that preparation, take that first step, and figure out how you can position yourself in a way that they take you seriously, You know your facts. And you do this very upfront with men. And you can create that legitimacy that you need to set the stage properly to get what you want. With women, again, from our findings, it's a lot more about the relationship. And you can use that relationship because the other side wants to as well, and find a common ground. It can be a little more honest. You can read each other better, and you can really communicate about what you're trying to get out of the situation, and use that relationship for the worth of that relationship, as opposed to just getting what you want out of it.
Okay. Yeah, I love that part in your book because I never really thought of using the relationship, but it's really good for women to use that. So
definitely, just don't let that relationship, have the opposite effect on you, where you're giving up more than you would if there wasn't a relationship.
Okay.
So keep the end goal in mind, even while building those relationships.
Okay. So how can we get what we deserve in salary negotiations?
I would say salary negotiations are the trickiest of negotiations. My advice, and from my experience, and my father actually wrote a whole nother book on just salary negotiations, and from what he's taught me over the years as well, the best way is to avoid the salary talk up front. Get them to fall in love with you as a candidate, to the point that you're the only candidate they really want for the job. And if they don't get you, they're going to have to go back to the drawing board and start looking at new resumes all over again. Once they know you're the right candidate for the job, and you know that you want the job, which is just as important, the salary comes in later. And the best way, I've found, again, is think of it in the big picture. It's not just about the face value of the number they're offering. And again, each job's different. I'm in the sales world. I negotiate leases for a living. So salary isn't really the big issue. Much bigger issues are resources and flexibility and, the team I have to work with, those kind of things. But if you look at it as not just the number and figure out what it is you want for that job, you can get to that number and, of course, ask for a little more up front than you would actually take that job for. That's one, tip. Another one is it's not just about that number. If vacation's important to you, if resources, if structuring bonuses are important to you, it's a whole picture, not just one thing. And ask for it. And definitely don't forget to negotiate. Even if it's your first job, there's still room to negotiate if you're the right candidate and it's the right job for you.
Definitely.
And you can convince them of that.
Definitely. So I love how in your book you have stories of, you've interviewed many, many women, and you've listed stories of people's negotiations and their experiences. So what are some of your favorite stories that you wrote about in your book?
And we interviewed some absolutely amazing women, Andrea Jung, Kathy Black, about how they negotiate. And when we tell a lot of their stories in the book, I found it fascinating that these amazing women find it harder to negotiate for themselves in personal situations, and find it much easier to negotiate when dealing with having your company behind you, or negotiating on behalf of a client. But when it comes to asking for what they want specifically, it's a different situation, and they have to approach it differently, and they have to remind themselves that they deserve it, and go after it that way, and not think twice about it just because it's for them, as opposed to a business transaction.
That's interesting. Yeah, I bet it's fun to look at all of them and see the trend of what people are saying, huh? That's cool. So this is the question I ask at the end of all my interviews. What is one thing you wish you would have known as a young professional woman just starting out in her career?
I would say figure out what you want. Same as negotiating, really. Figure out what you want, how you're going to get there, and do everything in your power to prepare yourself for the future. Take opportunities. Any opportunity that arises, take it to as far as it can go, and you never know where it's going to lead. Follow through on everything you say you're going to do, and opportunities will come to you. And just be prepared, and figure it out, and make sure you're doing something that you enjoy.
So where can people find out more about you online and your book?
You can find the book Amazon, Kindle, at negotiationplus.com. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can follow me on Twitter at Real Estate, and that's REALEST, the number 8 woman. And I'm about to launch a new website, which is under construction right now, and it's stopcompromising.com for real estate information, for book information, posting interviews, and there'll be lots of stuff, and hopefully within the month that'll be launched.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much for speaking with me today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. This was fun.
Yes. This is Anna Runyon from ClassyCareerGirl.com.